Hey everyone, so in last week's video, I did the Draw This in Your Style challenge where other artists put forth their art in that hashtag and then other people draw it. So I drew 3 pieces of art from other artists. But then I thought, instead of just drawing art from random people, what if I draw art submitted by my subscribers? So that's exactly what I'm doing today. I've chosen 3 pieces of art from the Draw This Baylee J hashtag. It was so hard to pick. Oh my gosh, you guys have so many amazing characters. It was really hard to narrow it down. And if you missed out on submitting, have no fear because I want to make this a series. So use hashtag DrawThisBayleeJ on Twitter or Instagram and I will look through that hashtag and pick art for my next video. Well, not next video, but the next one in this series. Also, I submitted art for you guys to draw and there were so many submissions. I scrolled through the hashtag at the end of the video because it was like 3 minutes worth of footage. So that's at the end. Okay, let's get started on the art. So the first character I'm drawing was submitted by Sudman_Gabby and it is her character Bianca. Bianca! I thought it was a very interesting character design, so I just had to draw it because it's a person who could be male or female. It's kind of hard to tell. The body looks more male, but the head looks more female. But it also looks like the character's wearing a mask maybe, and that's maybe just their face. I interpreted it as being that's just the character's face. That's what they look like. They just have a white round face. And I drew mine with a bit more detail than that. It's not just kind of 2 dots and a mouth because it's the draw this in your style kind of thing, so I need to make it my style. I also interpreted the body as being female, even though it's very gender neutral in this. I mean, yes, the legs are really hairy, but hey, girls can have hairy legs. That takes time. Sometimes we just have hairy legs, okay? But I just said, okay, this is gonna be female because why not? Also, the name is Bianca, which sounds more like a girly name, but hey, you can have whatever name you want. I started off sketching in those Daiso pencils that I got in various colors. I used them for my last video and they're actually pretty nice for sketching because they are so waxy. That's not really the best for coloring because there's not a whole lot of pigment, but it's really nice for sketching because it just glides along the paper and I have different colors to choose from. So that's what I used. And then I went over it with a graphite pencil to refine the lines because I like to have clean lines before I outline. Otherwise, I'm gonna screw something up. So it looks kind of like I'm drawing this 3 times. We had the pink sketch, the graphite outlines, and now I'm using this pinkish purple pencil to outline it. This pencil was not the best choice for this drawing because it ended up smudging a lot when I went over it with my Copic markers, but that's okay. I like living on the edge, oh yeah. So here are the Copic marker colors I chose for this drawing. And I'm starting out with the face as usual. And for this one, I wanted the cheeks to be a little unblended because that's how it looks in the original. It's really hard balancing what the character's design is versus translating it into my style because I usually do softly blended blush, at least somewhat softly blended. And this was very harsh and I decided to stick with that harshness because it's just a very interesting feature and a very distinguishing feature of this character. I barely colored the skin at all since it is pure white. I just used a little bit of warm gray to add some shadows. And I had to give her lips because that's usually how I draw my characters. The hairstyle I just interpreted as being bangs and a short cut. It almost looks like the front of the hair could be pulled back behind the head, but I think it's all down. What I love about the reference art is that from the waist down, it's like dad outfit. And then the shirt's like 80s kid. And then the face is just like doll. It's just such a random combination and I love it. Also the hand that's down, so screen right, the character's left hand, it's a backwards hand, but I don't know if that was intentional or not. So I did not draw my character with a backwards hand, but yeah, I don't know. Because if you could see the palm and the hand was turned forwards like that, the thumb would be on the outside. So I don't know. I was like looking at this character design, maybe that is how it's supposed to be. That would not surprise me, but I'm just not sure. Here's when I'm coloring over the leg hair and it's just smudging everywhere. It's like the leg hair has motion blur. Maybe the hairs wiggle and it propels her forward like bacteria or something. Could you imagine if leg hair did kind of reach out like little feelers and wiggled around? you get too close to something and your leg hairs reach out to sniff it. They're like, oh, what's this? Why do these things come to my mind? I don't know. One thing I'm trying to do with my art is not get too crazy with the shadows, because sometimes I do too much contrast, like more than I prefer. But I still want some areas to have really dark shadows. So if you look at the cast shadows in this, like for example, underneath her chin, her neck is a lot lighter than that shadow right at the top on the neck. And then look at her arm. It's not shaded a whole lot until you get to the sleeve, and the sleeve is casting a shadow. So there are deep shadows, but it's not a deep shadow everywhere. And I like that look a lot better than just lightly shaded everywhere or very heavily shaded everywhere. With these 3 drawings, I also tried not to mix too many different colors into the shadows or anything. There's some stuff here and there, like I added a bit of pink to the highlights of her hair, but I didn't go too crazy because I feel like sometimes my shadows can look really muddy, especially when I tried to shade a lot of stuff with blue. It looks muddy, so I tried avoiding that and keeping everything really bright. So there she is. There's Bianca. Thank you so much, Gabby, for submitting such a fun and quirky character. Next up is A Boy in a Bear Suit, submitted by Alex Fox Plays. This one was simple yet adorable. I just knew I had to draw it. There were a lot of really fancy ones to choose from, but this one just appealed to me. I'm like, oh man, a little boy in a bear suit? That seems so fun to draw. So that is why I picked this one. I also really loved the white belly. I just really wanted to draw that. And I like his little kissy face with a heart, even though I did not do kissy face, but I wanted to incorporate the heart. And I like how the top of the suit has a little face on it. I drew the face in the sketch and then I almost forgot to add it until the very end. I was like, oh yeah, the face on the top of the bear. I wanted the pose to feel very fluid, so he's got kind of noodle legs bending, but I'm just trying to make my art less stiff with all these. And I was also challenging myself to just draw faster in general, because I think that's a big reason why my art can look stiff a lot, is because everything's just too straight and I sit there spending forever trying to make things perfect when I just need to sketch faster and looser, and that will make it feel more lively. Whenever I use real photos as reference, that's when my art looks extra stiff, because real life isn't as bendy as a lot of illustrations. You're supposed to tweak things and stylize it to make it look more stylized. That was really bad wording, but you don't want it to look like real life if it's an illustration. It's meant to be cartoony and silly and not stiff like I always draw it. I actually heard a really good tip once that said to do a sketch from reference and then set aside the reference and try drawing it again. I don't know if they mean completely from memory or they mean look at their sketch, but the point is step away from the original photo and try drawing it again, but faster, because you're more familiar with the subject now, and also just not relying on making things exact like they are in the photo. Exaggerate things, give things more movement, play around with the shapes, and it'll look more illustrative. With this one, my shadows didn't get very dark in marker and I didn't feel like reblending everything out again, so I just used a bit of pencil to darken some of the shadowed areas. I also like using pink pencil for doing blush because you can build up the color. Usually if I'm going to use marker for the blush, I do that first before I even start coloring the skin because it's easier to blend that way, but sometimes I do just start with the skin color, then do blush, and then I have to go back with the skin color and blend it out. I'm usually all over the place. My technique changes from video to video. Sometimes it's because I didn't think ahead to the blush, or I just felt like doing it that way. Again, I didn't want to add any crazy colors in the shadows. I really just stuck with blue on the blue parts. There's a bit of blue in the white parts, but that's about it for crazy colors. Because it's so cutesy and childlike, I thought it'd be best to keep the colors vibrant and clean. So here's how he looks. Thank you so much, Alex, for submitting this art. It was really fun to draw and he's adorable. This next one is definitely the most detailed of the bunch, and it's submitted by Tate Rochelle. This is her character, Lacey, and she did such an amazing job on this, and it looks so fantastic colored digitally that I was really scared to tackle this one because I knew my coloring job would look nowhere as good as this. But it was just too cute of a design, I had to do it. I played around with a lot of different poses, incorporating the umbrella, and eventually I settled on kind of a basic pose where she's just standing there holding the umbrella. But I liked the idea of the umbrella encircling her head, almost framing it in a way. I did have to cheat the angle of the umbrella a little bit so the perspective is not quite right, but I just like the idea of that big circle being right behind her. Almost like a halo. I don't know why, but just adding a basic circle behind your art always looks so good, and in this case it's an actual prop in the piece of art, but I just like it. It just looks nice. Also, I was really hating my sketch because I'd done a rough sketch on my little sketch paper, and then I was doing the formal bigger sketch and it just did not look as good as the small one. So I scanned the small one, blew it up to be bigger, printed it off, and then refined it. This happens to me way too many times. I'm like, I'm just gonna draw a little thumbnail, and it's gigantic, taking up like a quarter of the page. I'm like, well, it's kind of a thumbnail. And then it ends up looking better than what I try to sketch, and I just use it as the sketch. But I rarely film myself sketching thumbnails, and so I need to start doing that because my thumbnails half the time just turn into the main sketch. And then I feel guilty for not recording it. Not only is the perspective on the umbrella very cheated, the shape of the handle, what is that called? I don't know, the handle. It is very, I don't know, broken because I was trying to do a curved line just to give it a bit of movement and make it look less stiff, but at the same time for a prop, you don't really need that. But it's the hands that screwed me up because the line is not perfectly continuous where her hands are. It's like the angle of the rod changes. Rod, hey, maybe that's the word I was looking for. I don't know. It's not really an umbrella too, it's a parasol, I believe. So whatever, same difference. I liked how the character had a little pouty look in the original, and mine's not so much pouty as just sad. I just really liked the sad eyes and wanted to incorporate that into mine. We're not all happy all the time. Matching colors was a little bit tricky for this, and looking back at it now that I'm seeing them side to side on the same screen, I probably should have picked different colors for her skin. I mean, the deep shadows were good. I noticed it was a bit orangey, so I chose my E0s, but I probably should have used E50 for the main light area because her skin is a little too orangey in the reference. It's more of a yellow. One thing I wanted to carry over from the original was that she has some blushing on her shoulders and elbows, and so I tried to incorporate that. That's something I don't normally do, so it's not really my style to do that, but again, it's one of those things where you're balancing the original character design versus your style. One thing I did not notice while I was drawing this until the very, very end is that the character is actually wearing gloves. Her one hand is completely obscured and the other one is sticking up, but I didn't even notice that until I was pretty much done. So in my drawing, she just has bare hands. Gloves would have looked so cute though. Oh, regrets. One thing I would love to do in the future is, well, similar to what I just did for this drawing, but try to replicate certain digital art looks with my Copics. I'd probably have to draw very large though. Even though this drawing is the largest of all three in this video, it's still not big enough to get in a crazy amount of detail. I'm sure for some people that size is sufficient, but I don't know. I want to use that paper I got from Daiso. I got some really big paper. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I want to do a big Copic illustration so that I can try to get in more detail and see what I can do. And before that, I want to do some studies of other people's art and just see if I can replicate certain digital art looks. I was also struggling with color selection because I felt like I didn't have a nice bright green like there is in the art. The closest thing I had was, I think it was my G00, and then I had a G04, but the 04 was pretty dark, and so my character's a lot more bluish than the one in the photo. I also just didn't have a ton of light greens to choose from. I was using my light BGs and light Gs, and I didn't have enough to get quite as many colors as she has in her drawing, but it's close enough. I also added the highlights to the eyes, which I don't always do in my art. I used to do it for every single piece of art. Now I sometimes just leave it without because it's just my style nowadays and I like that. But with this one, because the original is so chibi with the big sparkly eyes, I just had to add some kind of highlight in here. And there's not one, but 2 highlights. I've gone crazy. Oh man. I also added some highlights with my white gel pen that were not in the original. Pretty much anywhere that had the little triangular scalloped edges, I added a little bit of white dots along the perimeter of it just because I thought it looked good. I try not to overdo it with the white gel pen nowadays, but sometimes it just really makes things pop and you need it. I also added it to her hair, which looks a bit odd. I tried going over with a green Copic marker to tone down the white a little bit, but I loved the look of those dots in the original, so I wanted to at least attempt to get that effect in mine. Thank you so much, Tate, for submitting your character, Lacey. She is so cute. Here's a little recap of the art I did in this video. This is just video number 1 in this series. I'm just starting so many series, oh my god. Remember, if you want to submit some art for me to draw in a future video, use hashtag #DrawThisBayleeJ. And then here is me looking through hashtag #LookBayleeJ, where people drew my little fruit, strawberry, banana, bunny girl, whatever she is. There was so much amazing art. I was just blown away. So if you used hashtag #LookBayleeJ, then your art's probably in this video because I scrolled through the entire tags. If you see some art here that you like and you're thinking, hey, I want to go follow that artist, just go to hashtag #LookBayleeJ, scroll through and find some new peeps to follow. I'm just going to leave you with music for the rest of the video, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys for my next video. And I'll see you at Annie Revo if you're coming! Annie Revo is here in Vancouver. It's August 3rd to 5th, and I'm a guest. I have an Artist Alley table, and I'm doing panels, so come say hi.